Wednesday, May 2nd. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we preview Darker Than Black, Romeo and Juliet, Rocket Girls, and perhaps one of my favorite shows ever, Zaizen Jotaro.
Let's do this.
Well, I found a BlackBerry.
Wait, you found a BlackBerry?
Well, pretty much whenever I drive home instead of taking the train, I always drive past Breakneck Ridge, so invariably I climb it real quick and then climb back down and get on my way and go home. And while I was climbing, I saw what looked like a little DS case or something, so, and I look over there and sure enough, there's a BlackBerry.
Well, usually when you turn a BlackBerry on, it'll say, this BlackBerry belongs to so-and-so, we live at so-and-so. Does it say that?
I haven't looked at it at all, other than that I saw it has a bunch of really lame messages in it.
What variety of BlackBerry is it? What color is it?
Black.
Okay, so it's that kind.
I don't know or care.
Is the screen color or black and white?
Color.
All right.
Doesn't matter.
It does.
It doesn't matter at all.
It does.
It has no bearing on the story. The point is, I found some dumbass's cell phone who lost it on the mountain. Very low on the mountain, I might add. Like sitting openly in the middle of the trail. I don't know how you could drop something that big and heavy and not notice. But I guess I'll have to contact him somehow and give it back to him. Maybe I'll get some sort of reward like I gave that kid who found my cell phone way back in the city.
Well, what about your cell phone?
Oh, you mean my smashed cell phone?
Yeah, that one.
I smashed it.
Good job.
You realize that cell phone has been smashed, crushed, dropped, or immersed in water like 20 times in recent memory alone?
Yeah, well, you gotta stop doing that.
If I go climbing or biking or running, I bring a cell phone. That way if I hurt myself, I can call the police or the ambulance or whoever to come get me.
Yeah, you can still, strap it to yourself in such a way that it does not get smashed.
Where am I going to say I'm climbing. Where am I going to put it?
Well, for the iPod, they have, those little wrist armband things.
Yeah, I'm going to put a cell phone there. Plus, it would get smashed. You can't climb. I bang my arms into rocks all the time.
Uh-huh. Alrighty.
Yeah?
Whatever.
Plus, this cell phone is over 3 years old, beating the hell out of anyway, so.
And my cell phone that was 3 years old is still working. I just stopped using it because it was old.
Yeah, I still have my original cell phone. It still works fine. I just don't use it.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
No.
It's right over there. You can charge it up and still use it to call the police or something if you want.
Yeah, I don't think it can make regular calls. And isn't the screen broken? And yeah.
Only the outside screen. Everything else is fine.
The outside screen is the most important part. I use my cell phone more as a clock than as a phone. Anyway.
All right. So what do you have in the news, Scott?
Well, if you weren't paying attention to the internets, there was the gigantic news, and it was so gigantic it basically conquered Dig like a Goliath or a Cyclops or something. Probably a Cyclops. I don't know. Basically, there's a key, an encryption key, that can decrypt HD DVD movies. So if you had this key and you wrote a piece of software using this key, you could take an HD DVD movie and do anything you wanted with it. You could make copies, you could put it on the BitTorrents, whatever. It doesn't matter. So, of course, this key is technically DMCA not okay. And the people who, are in charge of maintaining this key, the AACS, went around and they found people posting this key on the internet, and they said, hey, don't post that key.
Well, the problem is the key is actually a very short, relatively easy to remember number. It is just a number, and that's it.
Yep, it's just a number.
It's trivial to just type it anywhere.
Yep. So, what happened is early in the day, yesterday, people, on Dig would just post the number in a comment on a story that had nothing to do with it. And then people would bump the number up. And then some people would submit stories to Dig, and they would put the number as the subject and the content, and they would link to a page that had the number. And so on and so forth. And Dig started out by saying, all right, listen, we can't do anything illegal if you want us to still exist. We're a very small company. They're a very big company. We're going to get in trouble, so we're going to have to get rid of these stories. That was a bad move by Dig. Because, as anyone could notice, within a few hours, every story on Dig was the number. The entire front page was covered with the number and nothing else. Whether Dig was going to get destroyed by being sued under the DMCA for allowing this number to be posted on their site was not an issue, because Dig was now useless because there was no news on the front page. There was just this number.
Well, unless you went to any other category where then this number wasn't there and Dig was normal.
Yep. But, no one goes to those other
I
categories.
do. I don't go to the front page.
Oh, really? I go only to the front page, but I have it sorted, so, only some categories appear on the front page and some don't. I filter out the categories I don't like.
No, if I want to know news about a given category, I go to it. I didn't even notice the stupid front page key business.
Whatever. Anyway, even if you didn't notice it on the front page, on the right side of Dig, where it says top 10 in all topics, it was covering that entire thing, was all stories about this key.
I don't know. On one hand, I don't think this is really unexpected or particularly important or interesting. It's just, that's what nerds and geeks do. If they feel threatened and the way to fight back is something that you can do easily online, they'll do it. So if you have a den of geekery or nerdery like Dig, where most people know what this key is and know exactly what's going on, they're definitely going to just post as much as they can and cause as much trouble for everyone who's trying to hide it as possible.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it was unexpected, but I think it shows that now, look, here is a real example where people's on the internet with the civil disobedience coming on strong and actually getting something done. And now all the regular news media and everyone is taking notice. Like, oh shit, look what those people are doing.
I think the relevant quote, someone pointed this out on Dig, in fact, and it was from an old show I used to like called News Radio. And the quote is basically, trying to take something off the internet is like trying to take pee out of the swimming pool.
That's a good one.
I mean, there's really no way to keep this key. People already registered domain names that have the key in them.
I didn't know that.
Well, because and the key can be incorporated into an IPv6 address straight up.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So
there's already stickers and t-shirts.
So what Dig eventually did is they said, all right, apparently one of the stories involving this key was the most dug up story ever. It got I dug it even. It was 20,000. It was a ridiculous number of digs.
Oh, I actually went in and dug every single story that had the key once I figured out what was going on.
I only dug a few of the biggest ones just because I didn't want to. Some of the lower ones were crappy or linked to bad stuff, so I didn't want to pump them up. But eventually, Dig said, all right, we don't have the manpower to go around deleting all these stories with the key. And apparently, you users of Dig, have decided that you would rather see Dig fight and die than censor all these stories. So we're going to keep them up. And that is what they did.
I don't think it's going to matter because regardless of what happens, there's no way they can C&D and then follow through everyone who's posting this key. It would cost more. It would basically cost an infinite amount of money because this key has appeared everywhere on the internet.
Yep. And the question is, will they even sue Dig at all? Will they even try?
Will they even think about it? They have many bigger fish to fry right now.
Well, I think actually there is a possibility that this outrage, the outrage of the users on Dig and the fact that the regular news media took notice of it might attract attention to Dig as one of the sites that disobeyed the C&D, whereas other sites disobeying it might not get in trouble.
Well, it wasn't just Dig because Slashdot had a much more, Slashdot is generally, I don't want to say people on Slashdot are smarter or more erudite or anything like that, but it is definitely a different kind of site.
I think just what it is that the only people who are still on Slashdot, right? All the dumb people have left Slashdot, so now it's only some smart people.
Actually, the other day, because I haven't posted in a while, but I used to have this game that I played for the longest time, and the game was literally how many +5s can you get in a row without anything less than that in between.
Yep.
I once filled my entire Slashdot history with +5s.
He's not lying. I saw it.
And I started up again. I haven't posted on Slashdot in a year. So
I've been actually Slashdotting a little bit more recently lately.
Well, I saw a thing about AMD. Someone was like, is Apple going to buy AMD? And I was like, no, that's crazy and stupid. What the fuck's wrong with you?
That's right.
I got a
what
+5.
when I saw that headline as well.
Yeah, I got my +5. And then I remembered that when Geeknights first started, a decent number of you came from Slashdot posts because my sig linked to us. So I think I'm going to start posting my +5s again.
Actually, I've always been subscribed to the Slashdot RSS feed for as long as it's existed, and that's how I read it ever since RSS existed and was useful. I just look at the headlines on Slashdot, and if there was an interesting story, I'd click on it. And I noticed that in the past few weeks, I've been ending up on Slashdot more often than I have in weeks prior. I think the editors at Slashdot have gotten smarter, and they've realized the kinds of stories that people want to read nowadays are not the kind of stories that they would have read in, say, 2002.
At least the formula for making a +5 comment has not changed.
No,
it
no,
is
it has
basically
not.
a science to get +5 comments.
It's the same formula on Dig, even, to get a bunch of thumbs ups. So.
Well, it's a different formula. The post that would get you the ups on Slashdot will not get you the ups on Dig and vice versa. But there is a formula for both.
I think it will. It depends. Dig has a lot more. It depends a lot more on the timing of your post and the noticeableness of it based on its formatting and such like that.
Anyway, not to get on a long rant about Slashdot, Dig, and all that, but the article on Slashdot talking about this issue had no, it wasn't in the title. People weren't really posting all over the comments so much, but there's a tagging beta where you can tag stories. And immediately the story was tagged with none other than the key.
Oh, yeah. I have a feeling this key is going to become a category on some blogs out there.
Well, I noticed someone may or may not have posted it in our forums. You all know it is our policy to never delete a post ever.
Yep, and I don't think we're going to get a cease and desist. And if we do...
That'll be awesome.
If we do, I'm going to do what Cory Doctorow did. You know what he did?
Did he just post the cease and desist that has the number in it?
That's exactly what he did. He took the number off and he put up the cease and desist PDF that had the number in it.
We can't get into it because it's not that kind of day. It's Wednesday.
Yep. Well, I only said this on Wednesday because it had to do with HD DVD. So a reminder again, anyone who thinks about watching anime or anything on DVD.
Because you really need all those HDs to make your animes look better.
I know, right? But anyone's thinking about it, now you can decrypt that shit and make copies and watch it on whatever. Doesn't matter anymore.
So, many of you may or may not be fans of the Right Honorable Lord Go Nagai.
Go Nagai.
Go Nagai, famous for being the king of various things.
Cutie Honey.
Devilman.
Messenger.
A Getter Robo. Well, at the Napoli Comic-Con in 2007, which happened...
Napoli is in Italy?
Yeah.
Wow. Wait, Naples or...
I don't know. I don't know anything about Italy. I know about old Italy. I don't know about modern Italy. There are, however, anime cons in countries other than the United States and Japan.
Unbelievable.
So, at this con, he got a very interesting, cool interview, and someone has decided to translate it, transcribe it, and put it on the internet. It is highly worth a read.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's like, the interview was conducted in Italian, so you got the questions translated from Italian, and then the answers translated from the translator translating from Japanese to Italian.
Well, I think one of my favorite answers he gave is that when they asked what he's working on now, he said he's working on 4 kinds of stories, 2 of which are manga about samurai set in medieval Japan. 2 of them.
Wow, I guess the other 2 must be violent, sexy robots, right?
I'm not even going to comment on what kinds of things Go Nagai might actually be putting into his manga. It's a pretty cool interview. I'm not going to go through it much, but check it out.
Yeah, and apparently Anime News Network says Napoli Comic-Con, but the actual interview says Naples Comic-Con.
So last night, I was complaining when I do my things of the day about how everything worth seeing on the internet is on Dig, and anything I pick, whether it's on Dig or not, will be on Dig by the time we do the show about it.
Well, I think that was not true last night because Dig was just a sea of numbers and nothing interesting.
But I mean, in general, most of what is important on the internet to people like us is on Dig/Dot, Fark, and Gadget. There's a list of websites, and between them they cover
Kotaku.
99% of everything we care about.
That is correct.
But every now and then, a little gem slips through the cracks, who for whatever reason go to places other than we go on the internet. So
they're very strange people. They go to strange places that we would not even dare to go, even if we knew they existed, such as 4chan or DeviantArt. Well, DeviantArt's not so bad, but I don't go there. LiveJournal, MySpace, etc.
So I could describe my thing of the day, which last night our friend Ido messaged me and demanded that it be a thing of the day, and was shocked at the fact that I didn't know about it. And upon further investigation, it was in fact submitted to Dig almost a year ago.
Oh.
But it never got dug up, so I never would have seen it.
That's very strange, because this is the kind of thing that would be dug up if people noticed it.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of knockoffs that are actually pretty bad by different people, but this is the original. All I can really say about it...
He's coming. He's coming.
He's fucking coming. I'm not even going to try to quote it. Suffice to say, it is a rapish kind of video about George Washington that is entirely historically accurate.
30 dicks.
It's pretty much a straight up history of George Washington.
Yes, all you people from other countries can learn about the father of the United States.
I mean, we used to debate about, could anyone beat Chuck Norris? I think we found the answer.
George Washington versus Chuck Norris?
I think George Washington wins.
Maybe.
I'm not going to do it justice if I try to make jokes from it or quote it. All I can say is, one, the song is going to be stuck into your head. You won't think it will. You'll listen and think, that was funny. And then the next day, you'll be humming it.
Watch it 2 times, then it'll really be stuck in your head.
It's in my head right now.
Yeah, it's in my head,
Washington.
All right.
Tall weighs a fucking ton.
All right.
He's coming.
So, I got something that I don't...
He saves the children, but not the British children.
So, oh man, we're going to be quoting that for a bunch of episodes to come. So, anyway, I found something that's pretty cool. You know how people always find, like, knockoff toys, and they're hilarious, because, like, look at that, it's a Dragon Ball toy, but the colors are wrong, and it says Dragoon Ball.
God.
Or you'll see, like, I don't know, a Ninja Turtle, and it's like a frog.
Well, Emily and I were in Manhattan way back in Chinatown, and she found these wooden slipper clog things that had Naruto characters very poorly painted on them in entirely the wrong colors.
I don't understand how these people get the colors wrong. I mean, I could get it if you got the shade wrong. Like, I used the wrong shade of blue or the wrong shade of orange.
Yeah, but Naruto doesn't have purple hair.
What the fuck is up with, like, the green Pikachus? It's like, did
maybe
you just not have yellow paint?
Maybe they do that, and then they say, no, it's the original character, see?
Yeah,
it's not the same.
That doesn't work.
It's not the same.
So, this is a knockoff that I found today. I don't think it's on Dig, but it is on some gaming blog, I think, that I found it on. And what this is, apparently, in Korea, China, I'm not quite sure. It's difficult to say. There is a game, a PC game called Powermon Plus. And it is pretty much a direct Pokemon ripoff. Like, directly. It's the same font for the logo. Pikachu is there. It's just Pikachu. The Jigglypuff is there. I see Eevee. I see Meowth. I see Oddish. It's a direct ripoff. However, the important thing to note about Powermon is that there are multiple Powermon games.
Wow. It must have made some money.
It's a knockoff franchise that seems to be continuing and able to put out more than one product.
See, while I have somewhat complicated views on piracy and that sort of thing, there's a big difference between copying someone's DVD once or blatantly outright ripping off an extremely popular and nationally renowned property.
Yeah, I also say that this is not cool, but it is cool to look at the screenshots in this game because they're hilarious. Oh my god. You got this Pikachu that's like totally demented and has a neck. Pikachu doesn't have a neck, people, all right? And he's throwing baseballs and ice cubes and bubbles and there's frogs and it's like some side-scrolling shit. And there's a Pikachu with wings flying around like an angel.
Stop, Pikachu. That's Raichu. You don't know shit about Pokemon.
You don't know shit about Pokemon. But yeah, apparently this PC game, Powermon Plus, requires
plus?
I don't know. It's the word plus followed by the plus symbol. Requires Windows
That's incorrect. That's just...
Yeah.
That's not... You don't do that.
It apparently requires 133 megahertz processor, 32 megs of RAM, Windows XP, and it came out in 2001 from ID Soft. Not only did they rip off the game, the license for the property of their game that they made, but the name of the company is a ripoff of a company in the U.S. that makes games.
Wow. They still make games?
ID?
Yeah.
Like in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Yeah, they make cell phone games and things. And they got someone else to make Quake 4.
Yeah, because I just realized that...
I think most recently they made the Doom cell phone RPG.
I was just thinking about it, and I realized that they pretty much fell off my radar a long time ago.
Well, it's mostly because they didn't do anything for a long time, and then Doom 3 was not so hot.
Nah.
Yeah.
Hell, actually, I didn't even think Quake 3 was so hot.
Not me either. But Carmack he's got good ideas on how to make a lot of money, and he's making moves. So watch out. He's gonna pull something out of the hat any year now.
So now that Washington's out of the way,
yeah.
Washington.
All right, last week we talked to you about 4 new anime from the new anime season, and this week we have 4 more new anime from the new anime season. Actually, one of them I think is from last year or something. Again, it doesn't matter when they're from. They're 4 very recent anime that you probably have not seen or heard of. And we are going to tell you, based on 1 episode of watching, what we think.
Some of them might be okay. I'm actually considering watching more of at least one of these shows.
Yep.
See if you can guess which one.
All right.
I'll give you a hint. It's not the last one.
We'll do that one last.
Actually, I kind of have an idea to watch all of that. If there's ever... It says there's 11 episodes.
It's all you. Okay, so the first show we will talk about is Romeo x Juliet. It is a TV show based on, yes, Romeo and Juliet.
Well, you say...
And it is a gonzo show.
All right, well, you say based on. And as far as I can see, the level of based on-ness is that the main characters' names are Romeo and Juliet, and there is a character named Benvolio.
And there are Capulets and Montagues. And there's a character, William Shakespeare, in the story.
But they call him Willie.
Yeah, Willie. And that's about it. Everything else is just fantasy.
Now,
there's flying horses and shit. It's out of control.
It's actually really well animated and pretty cool from the way it begins. So the opening song, it borders on the cheesy just a little bit.
Yeah, I think it is cheesy.
The show is very much symphonic romp music playing at all times. Very whimsical, it's a lighthearted fantasy. Look, people draw swords, but no one's dying, except when there's major plot things going on and a whole bunch of people are dying. But you can tell when those things are going to happen or not.
Yeah. And we haven't even seen any of those things happen because we only watched 1 episode.
Now, it begins with the Capulet family in their floating castle in the sky being...
It seems like there's a whole town, like a whole city or the whole world is on a floating rock, and there's big castles on this floating rock, and then there's peasants living in the city on the floating rock, and there's nothing else.
So the patriarch of the family is being murdered by the Montagues, who are systematically killing everyone in the castle in order to ensure that the bloodline is destroyed.
Yeah, basically the Montagues are genociding the Capulets, and then, even after, and that's in the past, and even when they're done with that, in the present time of the show, they're still running around looking for Capulets to genocide.
Because you see, it turns out that someone awesome saves a young girl named Juliet.
Ah, really?
And some other girl. And then they grow up a little bit, but she has to hide her identity. They have to hide the fact that she's a Capulet because there's a death warrant out on anyone with Capulet blood. In fact, they execute people who they suspect of having Capulet blood.
Yeah, it's sort of like a witch hunt for Capulets. Of course, in the real Romeo and Juliet, it was sort of Hatfield and McCoy kind of deal, and not so much a Jew and Nazi kind of deal.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, if it weren't nominally based on Romeo and Juliet, if it were just a show that had some other theme, it'd be okay. It's a pretty good show so far. It's not a great show.
It's definitely an average show. I mean,
a little above average, I think.
It's got some fun fantasy. It's got some good animation. Some of the character designs are cool. Some of the character designs are not cool. Voice acting is pretty average, but it's kind of like, I
think the story is pretty interesting. I like the setting. I like all that. What I don't like is that, one, they pull some kind of Utena shenanigans where the main characteress, Juliet, dresses up as a boy and furthermore dresses up as the Red Whirlwind, who's basically the Scarlet Pimpernel going around saving people. And all this time, she has short hair and looks like a boy. But whenever she puts on a dress, out of nowhere, these long flowing locks appear.
Yeah, I could understand if she was hiding the hair, like down the back of her shirt or something like that. But you can clearly see she's not hiding the hair. She's got hair that is cut short, and then it magically elongates. And now, I can buy the flying horses, right? Just because, they're some biological flying horses.
I kind of like them just because they're different from what you would expect. They're really shaggy and lanky.
Yeah, but there isn't any magic in the show as far as I've seen. So you can't...
Other than the floating castle in the sky.
But I mean, if you're going to pull this hair appearing out of nowhere, you better show me some other magic somewhere else, or I'm not going to buy it.
I think it's pretty safe to say that there's more magic in this show.
Yeah, but if it's like, all right, so far the only magic is hair out of nowhere. Uh-huh.
So I guess the end result here is that the show is called Romeo and Juliet, as far as I can tell, for no reason other than to call it Romeo and Juliet, and it's so loosely based on it that it's almost laughable.
Yeah.
However, I see a potential for a pretty good show because, spoilers for Romeo and Juliet, they both die.
Yeah, if they end this and they don't die, then that's kind of silly.
But
if they do, and the show is set up as it is, if it keeps going in its current direction, and that current direction somehow ends with them both dying, that's pretty crazy, because that means that the in-between has to exist, which is a place where a good show lives.
yes, just if they have the guts to end this as a tragedy the way it should be, then this show is probably going to be worth watching. However, if it does not end that way, the show is probably not worth watching.
Well, it's Gonzo, so you never know what they could do.
Damn you, Gonzo.
Damn you. All right. The next show I want to talk about is sort of this happy, silly show that we watched called Rocket Girls. Basically, the premise of this show is you have a space program, a Japanese space program that's on some island out in the middle of nowhere. And they're trying to send rockets into space, but they suck. Like, they had a rocket that could go pretty high, and it worked, but it wasn't powerful enough to really get into space.
Yep, no, it's a silly group of scientists. It's not generally very serious.
Yeah, it's one of those sort of character groups where, sort of like the Tank Police, so there's one of everybody, or Pat Labor, where there's one of, there's this character and this character and this character.
Yep. It's one of those goofy camaraderie shows.
Yep.
Which we really like usually.
I do usually like those. And, now they're trying to develop a more powerful rocket that can actually get to space, but it's hella unreliable and it explodes and it sucks. And it's pretty funny watching them like bet on whether the rocket's gonna make it, and watching the native islanders like going, "Hooray, a fireworks show! Hooray!"
I don't know, I think the best part about the show is there's all these interactions between the scientist people. I mean, there's the main character girl, but whatever about her.
Yeah, I'll talk about her in a second.
And the one scientist girl who runs the whole like science program thing there is always testing and doing experiments on the astronaut.
Yeah, there's one astronaut.
And the astronaut's this really cool guy, and she basically tortures him constantly.
Yeah,
and
he was in like the
centrifuge,
the centrifuge simulator thing.
I've been in one of them.
A simulator. Yeah, he was in the centrifuge, and she turned it up too high, and he's like, "I saw you," like grinning.
with your gleeful smile, and she's like, "Damn, I should have expected a fighter jet pilot to pick that out."
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of fun animosity there, but then they start to realize that all right, we got to use the smaller rocket, whatever.
Yeah, they had to use the smaller rocket because the big rocket is unreliable, and if they don't get into space by the end of the year, they'll lose their funding. So
now, the best part of the whole first episode happens when they decide this.
Yeah, so the guy who's in charge decides, all right, if we're going to do this, the only hope is to use the old rocket that we know works but isn't strong enough, and somehow reduce the amount of weight we put into space so that we can still make it.
So he turns to the scientist woman and says, "So how much weight do you think our astronaut can lose?" And she has her evil grin and looks at him. And the best part of the episode, he pretty much backs up like, "Oh no, oh no." And he runs out of the room, and you think, all right. And this evolves into a rather extended scene that involves him not just running away, but stealing an armored car, crashing through the gates, and trying to get off the island.
Okay, now he's driving this very armored Humvee very quickly away from the space base, right? They chase him with a helicopter, and they shoot missiles at him. Like a fully armed anti-tank helicopter comes after him and is shooting him with rockets and missiles.
And the thing is, he'd rather die than stop that car, so he keeps going.
He just keeps going. It's pretty hilarious. Now, what the show is actually about, that's sort of the main deal, is that this is girl. And she's a girl who lost her father. I think her father must have been a space researcher.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's the
something.
flimsiest excuse for a plot ever. Because they wanted to make a show about little girls who were also astronauts.
Yep. So the girl ends up on the island, and while that guy, the astronaut, is running away, this girl ends up getting into his armored car. And in the end, they say they catch the astronaut guy, and the girl is with him. And the head of the space program goes, "Huh? How much do you think that little girl weighs?" Dum dum dum.
It's such a flimsy premise.
It's so flimsy.
And the best part is, there's two other girls that you can obviously tell just from the way they're animated and the fact that the camera focuses on them, that they are going to be the other two rocket girls. There's the native girl who's cute, and then there's the Chinese restaurant girl who's obviously cute.
Yep. 3 cute girls going into space. Funny space program, camaraderie, comedy, whatever. It's a lighthearted, silly, not very deep show with some comedy and probably some cute girl fan service. That's pretty much all there is to it. It's just one of those.
It's all right. I don't regret that I watched the first episode. I could see myself watching the rest of it someday when I've gone through all of my queue, but I really have no interest in watching it now.
I mean, if I really need a cheap, laugh, sort of like some giggles, I would watch this show. I would actually recommend this show highly to, say, an anime club, because if you watched it at an anime club, it would pretty much make everyone go, woo!
Yes, this is definitely one of those benefits from a crowd shows.
Yeah, it's not something you would actually watch seriously, but if you have a giant auditorium full of anime fans, turn this on and everyone will laugh their heads off.
So, moving on, because I want to get to this show. This is probably actually the best show in the lot. Well, best in terms of goodness, not best in terms of most memorable.
Yes, no, the show is darker than black, and it's sort of a supernatural fight, not so much fighting, but action show. And the first thing I want to tell you about in this show is the opening song, because I learned something from this opening song.
What did you learn?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the music in general before we talk about anything else. The music is by Yoko Kanno.
Of course.
Woohoo! That's awesome, because Yoko Kanno rules, right? But
you know what? I just realized that despite having done Geek Nights for however many 300-something episodes, I don't think any of our listeners know about Yoko Kanno in a box.
No, probably not.
Anyway,
the music is by Yoko Kanno. The opening song is by a band called Abingdon Boys School. Abingdon.
Now, I'll say that I really like the opening song.
It's a really good opening song, but it sounded so familiar. And I was like, this sounds like either TMR or L'Arc-en-Ciel, but I can't tell. I can hear J-Rock, and a lot of J-Rock sounds similar, but this is a really familiar J-Rock. Well, lo and behold, the front man for this band, Abingdon Boys School, is Takanori Nishikawa, who's the TMR guy. Apparently he's not doing the TMR anymore. Now he's doing this. I also found out that the band is named after, of course, the Abingdon School. The Abingdon School is the all-male school where the British rock band Radiohead was established. So that's kind of weird. That's like if I named my band, like, Strawberry Fields.
That's not a bad name for a band, actually.
Yeah, but you're totally like, if you're a Beatles cover band, that's okay. But otherwise, no.
No, in fact, I think if you're a Beatles cover band, you have less of a right to do that. You got to be like some weird off-center punk noise band to have a name like that.
That's no good. Anyway, yeah, so you got a show already, without knowing anything else about the show, that has Yoko Kanno music and also has awesome J-Rock opener.
And the show definitely has high production values. Really well animated. The character designs are pretty solid. I actually like all the characters we've seen so far. They remind me quite a bit of the characters from Licensed by Royal.
One guy does. The other people sort of remind me of...
what do they remind you of?
I don't know. Sort of like something in between. Like,
there's a little bit of Read or Die there, too.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Read or Die. One character looks like Roy Mustang with a mask.
I like that mask. It's like that Sailor Moon mask.
It is a cool mask. And I don't know. It's sort of... It's cool either way.
We're not going to talk about the plot of the show because part of the problem is that this show does a very good thing in one way, and that it has a very interesting setting, and they explain a lot of the setting to you pretty much right away because there's a lot to get out of the way, and they seem to really want to get to the meat of the show very quickly. Yeah, but unlike a lot of crap anime, they don't do it in the slipshod way you might expect.
Yeah. Basically, some of it is stereotypical. Like, there was an incident in the past that's mysterious, and you don't learn about it, even though everyone else knows about it.
Yes, now the city is surrounded by this wall, and the sky is fake.
And there's the truth is on the other side of the wall, but
no one can get out there.
No one knows what's out there. There's something out there, right?
I like how they show that, though, how you look at the sky, and then you realize that half of it looks like it's painted the wrong color.
Yep. And they make some, metaphors, and they're trying to be meaningful because there's one character who looks through a telescope, and they're like, hey, all the stars are fake. Why are you looking in that telescope? And it's like, ooh, he's looking in a telescope at the fake sky.
The coolest thing about this show so far is that there are these two groups of people who seem to have powers. Contractors, there are a lot of jokes, not getting into that, and dolls.
Yep.
Now, they have those typical anime kind of names, like we're going to call them things like this.
But it actually means something. The contractors
are really cool.
Yeah, they're people who have powers and do jobs and fulfill contracts. But whenever they fulfill a contract, Like, they don't say this outright, but you just see it in the show. They have to do something.
I think it's more that they make a deal in order to get a power. And in return for getting the power, they have to pay a price after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they're on contract to do something, really. It's that they paid the price of having this contract. It's like selling your soul to the devil, and then the devil gives it back to you after you, I don't know, break your ring finger or stack a bunch of pebbles in a specific intricate pattern on a table.
Yeah. And then you have these other people with powers who are dolls, which they describe them as mediums, like psychic mediums, like the girl in Phoenix Wright or whatever. They channel powers from somewhere else or something. They don't really explain it very well, but they're dolls and they're mediums, and they're the other group of people with powers. And, of course, there are people with no powers. And they're sort of tied up fighting over you don't know what.
The show, at least for the first episode, has some pretty good action scenes, and it starts pretty much right off with all the business.
Yeah, I mean, they just get right to it. There's like a new guy comes to town, and right away, he's involved in some craziness. Like, you see this guy come to town, and he has sort of like this crazy old landlord lady who's
the main character is actually just some like high school punk kid.
Yeah, he's some high school punk kid. He comes in from another. Oh, right. That's kind of weird. Like they were like, I just realized something. The guy's kind of foreign, right? Like maybe he's Mr. Lee and he's something, right? He's foreign, but he came to a city with a wall around it. Huh. That's interesting. I don't know. Is there like other? How big is this wall? How big an area does it surround?
Well, the first episode doesn't reveal much of that. It just kind of reveals the basic setup.
Yeah,
but
it's
the
like
show also starts out with two totally different threads that come together by the end of the first episode, and that's the direction the show is obviously going to go in from that point forward.
I liked how when he first showed up at his apartment, they introduced the funny landlord lady, but then they're like, oh, he has the mysterious female neighbor, right? Then they immediately show you why the female neighbor is mysterious, and they immediately bump into each other instead of holding that off. So you're like, I wonder about her. And then they bring her back in the third episode. You forget who she was. This is mysterious female neighbor. There she is. This is why she was mysterious, the end, And that way you didn't forget about her when they finally brought her into the plot, like happens quite often in many shows.
The show starts out dark, gets lighthearted for a little bit, and then gets dark again, and then gets really dark.
Yep. The characters I like best in the show are actually the police. I guess they're the police or the FBI or equivalent.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. The law enforcement agency. And, some of the characters in this law enforcement agency are stereotypical, but they're pretty funny, and some of them are really cool. And the one girl who seems to be smart in the police is pretty cool, and she's always, like, right up in the business and on top of everything, which is not so typical. Usually police are bumbling or falling way behind or something like that.
Or have tanks.
Or have tanks, yes.
I think this show's worth watching. I'm definitely going to check out at least a few more episodes.
Yeah, I got a few more episodes. You just got to watch them. So
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it more with this than I have with just about any other show that's come out recently.
Yeah, it definitely has the potential to be quite awesome and to have some cool action, and maybe if the plot goes in interesting places. Actually, I'd say it's the second most the show that I like the most, because that Bokurano with the robot, I'm really liking that one.
I really like Bokurano too, and I've only seen one episode.
Yep.
Emily's seen more, and all she has said is that it's very sad.
Oh.
Very sad.
Oh, maybe this will be my cool action show, and that'll be my sad show to balance out.
But if you want a cool action show, probably the best action show to come out in a long time is this last one. Government crime investigation agent Zaizen Jotaro.
Oh, God. Okay.
You want to say it in Japanese?
I'm going to try.
Naikaku, Kenryoku, Hanzai, Kyosei, Torishimarikan, Zaizen Jotaro.
Yeah.
It's just the C kanji.
It's the show with the long name. Now, this show, you probably haven't heard of it because the name is long and no one can even tell you the show exists because the name is so long.
Well, we were going to tell you about the show, but I think I'm going to have to take a quote from a site I used to link to a lot, and I just kind of forgot about it until recently, but Basugasu Bakahatsu Anime Blog. They tend to review anime pretty well.
Yeah, it's a really good anime review site, and they always get lots of screenshots from the anime they review, and sometimes videos. And it's actually, I'd say it might be the best anime reviews on the net.
I only stopped linking to them because their server was slow as shit, but they seem to have fixed that.
That's good.
And of course, their tagline is, because sometimes buses explode. So, what they had to say about this anime is the following. Not going to say the name again. Zaizen Jotaro's claim to fame is that it's, quote, that one anime with the freaking long name. I haven't seen anyone write about this anime, and I wondered why. It became pretty apparent after watching about 1 minute of the anime.
All right, now, Zaizen Jotaro. If you are someone out there who is entertained by
Go 13.
then you will be entertained by at least one episode of Zaizen Jotaro. Now, Zaizen Jotaro, he's no Duke Togo. No. But he's just about as close as you can get. He's pretty much, if you replace the fucking and the killing of Duke Togo.
With saying da bomb.
With saying da bomb.
Da bomb.
And spending money, you've got Zaizen Jotaro.
All right. Zaizen Jotaro is probably the manliest man in all of anime. And I say this because this is a man who, when he has to steer his car. All right, Scott, say you're a normal person. You want to steer your car. What do?
I turn the wheel.
Well, that's not good enough for Zaizen Jotaro. You see, when a manly badass wants to steer his car, he shoots the goddamn steering wheel.
And does that work?
That works perfectly. That's what this show is. The thing is, I don't think it's a parody. I don't think they're making fun of anything. I think it's actually straight up.
I think it is straight up, which is kind of weird.
So it starts with a fighter jet and a bunch of people in a control tower at an airport.
Yep.
And they're like, who could that be? Because this fighter jet's coming. And then Zaizen, who is flying this fighter jet, has hacked the radar screen terminal in the control tower to say, hey, it's me, and then post a stupid picture of himself snapping his fingers and being all awesome. He then ejects from the plane and parachutes to the airport.
Basically, there's a guy named Zaizen Jotaro. He's supposedly been dead for a few years, but really, he is awesome and alive. And his current occupation is like government crime investigation agent.
It's hard to say what his job is.
It's a government crime investigation agent.
But you see, he has this credit card.
Designer's gold card. And he has basically infinite money. That's his superpower, is infinite money.
Yeah, Batman has biological webs. Superman can fly.
Batman has biological webs?
No, not Batman. I guess I meant Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's webs aren't biological.
Yes, they are.
He invented them.
No, that's BS. I like the ones from the movie.
You're stupid. Anyway, Zaizen Jotaro has infinite money. He also has the power of...
It's the Zainer's Club credit card.
Yeah. He also has the other superpower of make the Navy SEALs appear whenever he wants.
Oh, my God. That's probably the point at which you realize just exactly what this show is.
No, I realized exactly what the show is about 30 seconds in.
Well,
as soon as he jumps out of the plane and says, da bomb.
There's the scene when he gets attacked by those 3 friars.
That's just random and stupid, that scene.
Or perhaps the stupidest method of trying to assassinate someone ever, where they have the 4 trucks box him in.
Yeah, he's driving down the highway in his awesome sports car. 4 tractor trailers box him in. He takes his gun and he shoots at the 4 corners of the roof of his sports car.
Without looking, mind
Without
you.
looking. He just kind of, reaches behind himself while always looking forward at the road and driving. Then he ducks his head down low, so he's looking at his head is below the, the door of the car, and he drives right under one of the trucks, and the roof of the car gets ripped off. Meanwhile, the trucks go off a cliff, and he stops on the edge of the road, and he's like, oh yeah.
So in the last bit, now keep in mind that there's absolutely no story.
No, none at all.
It is literally just scene.
It's basically, watch Zaizen Jotaro be a badass. Watch Zaizen Jotaro be an even crazier badass. Watch him be an even crazier badass.
So eventually this Japanese government, whatever, Yakuza, really, you don't know what he is.
He calls himself an elite of Japan.
So he corners Zaizen. He's got a bunch of guys with guns. And he's like, you'll be abandoned. The Japanese government would never abandon me because I'm a member of the elite. They won't abandon me like they abandon people like you commoner. And then, just then, one of the guy's cronies gets a phone call. And then the guy's like, we're not protecting you anymore. The Japanese government called. You're no longer a member of the elite. They've abandoned you. And Zaizen's like, see what I mean? Ha ha, I'm Zaizen Jotaro. So the guy goes nuts and pulls a gun. He's like, oh, well, I'm going to shoot Zaizen. And then, in what is perhaps the second worst moment in the history of animation, the Navy SEALs, as far as I can tell, all of them, swing around the top of the roof of this building.
Well, they appear the same way bad guys appear in Hogan's Alley.
Like, whoop!
And then from behind the Navy SEALs appear the most poorly drawn helicopters I have ever seen. I could draw a better helicopter. The helicopter in Choplifter for the Atari 2600 looks better than that helicopter.
I think you mean for the 7800.
It doesn't matter. The 2600 helicopter looks better.
Basugase Bakahatsu has a really good screenshot of just how bad these helicopters are.
Oh, do they really?
Yes.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
They're so poorly done. Like, they would be okay in a show like Lupin.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they're okay here, too, because this is perhaps one of the worst things I've ever watched.
Yeah, there's the
all of.
helicopters. Oh, my God. They're so poorly drawn. But, yeah, the thing with this show is that everything is poorly drawn. Everything is poorly animated.
The character designs are inconsistent. The animation is shoddy, inconsistent, poor, bad, shitty.
There's no music to be heard. The voice acting is da bomb.
Blah, 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 Zaizen, so Jotaro. Oh, blah, 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 Zaizen, whatever, credit card. Zainer's Club.
Blah, 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 gun, blah, 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 elite, blah, blah, blah.
The camera angles don't make sense. The proportions are off. They use overlays constantly and stupidly.
Pretty much everything in the yeah, there was the part where like all the guns appear from like all sides of the screen except the top part of the screen.
And then they waggle.
And then they wiggle around. There's like 2 or 3 scenes that are like that. Now, I thought the animation was bad, and I realized the encoding of the show that we watched was a bad encoding. So, and the screenshots of the show on Basu whatever are much better.
You can't say it? Basugase Bakahatsu?
Bakuhatsu?
Yes, Basugase
Are much
Bakahatsu.
better than looking than the video that we watched.
Well, I think part of that is
regardless, they're still terrible.
you see, you look at these screenshots and you think, all right, this show looks actually pretty well drawn compared to a lot of anime. The thing is, all those screenshots don't really actually move.
Yeah, I think that's another part of it, is that the animation is really terrible. So even though an individual frame might look okay, I mean, none of them look great, but they'll look okay. Any 2 frames in sequence will be all terrible. And it's just, God, it's worse than like some college student animation projects I've seen.
Now, if I ran an anime club still, I would probably show this.
On April Fool's Day.
Probably.
This is a show that no one's heard of, and it definitely falls into the category of so bad it's good. However, be warned. This is basically the limit of so bad it's good. If it gets any more bad, it's not good anymore, it's just bad. In fact, it's so bad that it's only good once. If you watch it twice, it'll just be so bad the second time around.
Because it skips through, I mean, it's well beyond the just kind of mediocre, and it is outright bad.
Yeah.
But when he says the bomb,
it's just so... Says the bomb. You gotta play him saying da bomb in the show.
Nah, I'll just let them watch this video, because without the video, you don't get the full effect. Because literally, it zooms in on him, and he looks at the camera, and he says da bomb. And then he snaps his fingers and points them at you like, hey, I'm so cool, you're not so cool. I'm Zaizen Jotaro, you can die in a fire. Look at me and my credit card and my fancy sports car that I shoot more than once.
Yeah, it's so weird because, some of the best shows and manga out there are basically stories of incredible, manly badasses that do all sorts of badass things. However, there's a point at which you become so badass that you just become comedic. There's really no difference between this and, say, Go-Go 13 or Crying Freeman or Sanctuary, except that this takes the badassness to a much higher level. They purposefully make scenes where Zaizen Jotaro can do things that are more badass than any anime or manga character has ever been before, and that makes it silly, when really it's the same exact thing. It's just more badass and therefore humorous.
See, the thing is, though, it's so poorly animated. I really can't...
It's just bad in every way.
I still would rather watch Hokuto no Ken than this.
I agree. I would much rather watch Hokuto no Ken than this. Because Hokuto no Ken is entertaining in ironic fashion. This is entertaining just because you look at how bad it is and you go, I can't believe someone made a show this bad. Oh my God.
I really feel bad for whoever did this show. I said it before.
It's based on a manga. I'm kind of curious to see what the manga looks like.
See, there's a chance that the manga's okay and this is just an adaptation, but I can't see that happening.
I'm pretty sure this is a direct adaptation from the manga.
This does have a lot of the tropes of those Gekiga kind of manga we like.
It's not a Gekiga.
No.
It's a, you know.
But it has a lot of the things in it that you would expect to see in a sanctuary.
Yep.
But they're just so dumb and poorly executed.
Because basically what it does is it gets rid of all those political talking scenes and those, why is someone doing this scene? And it gets rid of the plot surrounding the action. And it just has incredibly badass action scene, one after the other, non-stop, with nothing in between.
Look, Sanctuary has some awesome action scenes. And this is a manga I'm talking about. But the most climactic moments and the most tense moments in that entire manga were when someone just said something.
Yeah.
And then everyone said,
you could watch this show with no sound and it would be the same.
They're pretty much just saying his name over and over again.
You only have to listen to the parts where he says, da bomb.
But you can watch that on the link, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, so I don't recommend you actually watch this show. If you do, I recommend you watch only one episode for the sake of humor.
I recommend that everyone watch this first episode because this will inoculate you to all sorts of bad anime out there.
Perhaps. And I do recommend everyone, whether you like anime or not, go to the link that we are putting up on the site at frontrecruit.com. And in the middle of that page at basagasubakuhatsu.com, you will find a video of him saying da bomb, and you should watch that. It's like 30 seconds of your life, and it's worth it because that tells you everything you need to know about the show.
See, while he's such a badass in the context of the show, I don't think you could take out either Chuck Norris or George Washington.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, Scott's watching him say da bomb again, so I think we're done.
I think we are done. And good God, Zaizen Jotaro is a terrible show. Good God.
Yeah, I really would like to hear Dave and Joel's thoughts on this show.
Yes. I'm pretty sure that, this is right up the alley of Dave and Joel and Daryl and maybe Gerald and all those people. They'll recognize that this show is terrible, but they will also be incredibly entertained by it.
Possibly aroused.
And thus, I want them to watch it. I want to see if they know about it. And, yeah.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontroadcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
Devilman.
Messenger.
A Getter Robo.
Is he the Getter Robo? I guess. Whatever.
Is he the Getter Robo?